Hey there, Bristles. It's me again, Bristle Boss, and today we're going to paint some Fell Bats for Soulblight Gravelords. Woo! Hey Bristles, so before we get into it, I'm handheld right now doing this because I'm really not arsed setting up, changing my setup for doing the face thing. Also, my 10-year-old daughter gave me an intro that I thought was pretty cool, so I'm gonna read it out. I don't usually script, but she gave me a script, so we'll see how it goes. Take 4 of this smashing intro. Hey preppies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be making some baddylicious Warhammers, and we're going to make them look scrumptious. We ain't going to need no Uno reverse cards today, girls. I mean, it's fun and it's cute, but it's not wrong. So I'm going to give you a break this week. Last time was pretty intensive. It was a character, so I gave it a, well, what's a polite way of saying it? Maximum energy plus ultra, if you like anime, and specifically My Hero Academia. But anyway, yeah, so gonna do a quick video today. Well, it's still like nearly 20 minutes, but it's a speedy paint job with mostly dry brushing, and I'm going with Fell Bats because I think they look cool, and I would like to paint one in the future that's like I really put a lot of effort into, but for this I just want to get units done before the release of the new Battle Tome so that I can get straight to playing the game. And I'd also love to start playing some Path to Glory. I've got my eye on that Ravaged Coast book. I think I'm going to pick it up soon. And yeah, and the way the list building works for Age of Sigmar 4, you know, I need some more like units just to fill out regiments. So, and I want something quick. I obviously want more skeletons, but I'm going to paint them like I still have another 10 of those to paint for this army. I'll get to them, but I want a bit of variety for now. So Fell Bats it is. Mostly dry brushing and washes, very little highlighting. Hope you enjoy it. I think they turn out kind of cool. They look good enough, and even next to my Vampire Lord, who I put a lot of effort into, I mean, it looks like a cohesive force. So yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, so here's the lovely big Fell Bats. I've just primed them in black, Chaos Black. I've used Astro Granite on the base, and for some I have just made some rocks out of milliput. Sometimes when I've left over milliput, I just put it into a rough rock shape and then carve it with a hobby knife. But I'm going to cover the bits on the base now that aren't Astro Granite with Dark Reaper. So that's these statue kind of effigy things that some of them are resting on, and the rocks on the base. It doesn't have to be particularly neat or well covered to just get it on there. And now I'm going to take some Rhinox hide and I'm going to use that to paint the tree bits that are on the base. The reason I'm doing these now is because they kind of there are parts where the feet of the bats touch them, and I don't want to get any on the feet later. And there we have a mixture of Rackarth Flesh and Bugman's Glow. I also add some Rhinox hide into this mix. I'm pretty sure there is an existing paint that would be like this, but I'm just going to mix these 3 base paints together and cover anything that's not fur or the kind of, I don't know what the part between the membranes of the wings are, but anyway, the face and the wings. And Bugman's Glow, I'm going to, now let me explain something here. You'll see in the early part of this video I am trying to make a kind of layered blend, and I had intended on going over this in a glaze in the end to kind of tie it together and make it smooth, but to be honest it was taking far too long, so I'm going to use the exact same color recipes I show you. The next one is Bugman's Glow and Ungor Flesh mixed together, but later on in a few minutes I will show you that I switched to just applying all these colors, these layers, these stages, using dry brush, because it was taking a bit too long and I wanted to get it done. I was just getting impatient and I wanted to get these done. They're a filler unit, they're cheap points. I don't think they're going to last long in the game. So for now, because the purpose of this is a gaming piece, I just want them done quick. So you can see here I am still faffing around with trying to get a smooth layer without wet blending. At one point I do put them down and start wet blending, but it was taking far too long. So I've repeated myself a few times now, but anyway, that's how it's looking there at that stage. Also highlight the face. To be honest, I wouldn't bother highlighting the face, the whole face, except for the ears with that at this point, because later on I do change my mind and shift gears, change direction, and paint the face a little different. And here you see, as I mentioned, I was trying to blend the layers together. But anyway, now working back on the wing, instead of lightening it, gonna darken it with a mixture of Bugman's Glow and 2 parts Rhinox Hide. And this is where I start the dry brushing. I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna dry brush it onto the lower parts of the wings to try and make a transition. The one thing I will say, my paint was still a bit too wet at this point, and because of the angular nature and lack of detail on the wing membranes, it made a kind of a clear divide at one point. So just be careful of that. Make sure you dry your brush more than I did. If you think you're dry, you're probably not dry enough, so go back. Anyway, next dry brush, less area, but also on the lower half of the wing, just Rhinox Hide on its own. Just dry brush that on there and a little bit of stippling, because to try and give a natural kind of spotted look on the wing. The next step, going to add some Chaos Black to the Rhinox Hide, and the same process again, just even smaller surface area of the wing. So here's what I was talking about before. Here's another bat, and you can see the entire process, starting off dry brushing with that mixture of Bugman's Glow and Rhinox Hide. And now just Bugman's Glow. And don't forget to give his face a wee dust. I do really enjoy these models. I think they're lovely. I really like them, and at some stage in the future I might incorporate them into some kind of display piece where I get to put more effort into them, but because they are a gaming piece, I want to get them done quite quick. So now here's the other mix of Bugman's Glow and Ungor Flesh. I'm a big fan of Ungor Flesh. I think it's one of Games Workshop's better paints. It's a lovely ochre colour. I use it a lot in highlighting. If you're trying to highlight up reds without going straight to like oranges and stuff, and with using flesh tones, I think it's a fantastic colour for that as well. And now just pure Ungor Flesh, and you can see here on this one actually it's quite stark because I did not dry my brush nearly enough at this point. The most difficult part of this method, dry brushing with these colours, is getting the wing membrane that's right up against the fur and the body. You really got to push it in there. But of course, if you wanted, you could just not do that and then come back later with just a regular brush and paint in close to the edges. It's just a thin line that isn't getting hit straight away. But once we've done dry brushing those wing membranes and the face. I'm going to block in the fur with some black, as well as, I should have done my research and looked up the name of these things. I knew it before, but I can't remember now. I'm going to call it spines, the spines on the wings, but they're not really, they're kind of like extended fingers. But also as little tootsies, going to give them a coat of black. And then I also thin down some black and go a little bit out from where the feet are, and they're on the arms of the wings, that are actually the bat's arms. I don't go the whole way to the shoulder with that colour because I want to make it a kind of a transition. In the nature of trying to make things quick, I am going to use contrast paints, and right now I'm using dark oath flesh on the limbs, just on the limbs and the face, well, the ears. Here's where I change things up with the face, and I just highlight it up, paint it with Rakarth flesh, but leave the inside of those lovely bat's ears the colour that they are, that I've already done with the Bugman's Glow and the what you call it, Ungor flesh. But yeah, I'm going to give him a nice pale face because even though we're doing a quick job on this, a nice way to make a model stand out when you're for army painting is, you've probably heard it before, faces and bases. So put some effort into faces, or make them a little different to make them stand out, and give them a nice base, and it'll look great. Now I'm taking some, I think it's Magos purple, was it? Or no, Shyish purple, and going over the limbs and the face with that. I have thinned it down a little bit though because I don't want it to be too strong. Also, these are contrast paints, so they are drying a little bit glossy. So when at certain points you'll see me use some matte varnish to take that gloss away. But anyway, so moving on to the fur, I'm going to dry brush it. First layer is Chaos Black and Dark Reaper mixed together. And just going to dry brush that on his tootsies and his hands, I guess they're called. Also on the wing kind of fingers and the fur. At this point, I started to mix in some Thunderhawk Blue, I think it was, but the actual jump in colour wasn't enough for me, so I just used Thunderhawk Blue on its own and dry brushed that on in the places that I just mentioned. Also, don't forget the tail. I keep forgetting to mention the tail. And now I'm going to take a mixture of Thunderhawk Blue and Carrick Stone, and it makes this lovely sickly kind of green-grey, which is perfect for the themes of undead creatures. So this dry brush is going to be much more focused on, I guess you could call them the elbows or knuckles of those wing fingers, and on the fur as well. You'll see I'm not using tissue paper because I don't like picking up the fibers, and to be honest, my hands are kind of rough, so I need to moisturize, and also it's good for drying off my dry brush. And now this is a dry brush of Celestra Grey, which I love that color. And now Rakarth Flesh, what am I doing? Oh yeah, we're moving away from the fur for a second. I'm going to highlight up, now that the thin down contrast paint is dried on the face, just going to highlight his face with Rakarth Flesh and his teeth, and then give a tiny highlight, literally brushed over, kind of like a dry brush on the fur in a very small area. And for another highlight, I'm going to take Pallid Witch Flesh and just focus around the center of the face and a few dots on the ears, as well as the teeth. There you go, there's the varnish. I decided at this point it is a good time to use that to suppress that gloss. Now, here's a mix you will have seen me use on my previous videos if you watched my ones painting my Soulblight Gravelords. It's a mixture of Achelian Green to 1 part Achelian Green, 2 parts Black Templar and some water, and I'm going to use this all over the base, everything on the base. That means the wood, the tree, the stone, the statue guy, Then I'm going to dry brush with Eshin Grey, just the ground elements, because I do actually paint the statues different, and the next dry brush is going to be Dawnstone. So this one is going to be less centered of the base and more towards the edge. And then finally Celestra Grey. I think it's finally, we'll see now in a second. And a very light touch with this. Yep, it is. And now I'm going to highlight back up the wood with with Rhinox Hide. Dryad bark is a different colour, don't mind me. So highlighting that up nice and quick. Doesn't need to be too neat, just leave the recesses. And now a mixture of Carrickstone and Rhinox Hide. Mix them together, 50-50 roughly, and I will be dry brushing that over the wood. See, wasn't lying, this is mostly dry brushing, and these come together quite quickly. I do love painting wood. You can use lots of different variations, but this is what we're doing for this time. Okay, now Rakarth Flesh on its own. This will be, I believe, the final highlight for the wood, and just on the most prominent areas, not on the entire thing. And again, very light touch. So I decided at this point I wanted to paint the statues a little bit different from the ground, because I didn't want them to be just blended together. So Inky by Darkness and then Thunderhawk Blue, just dry brushing them on. Again, each successive coat, a lighter touch. And finally Celestra Grey. And until we do the snow, I believe that is the end of the bases. I do forget though on that one that there is a skeleton's head. I paint that later really quickly, similar to how I painted the skeletons for my actual Death Rattle unit, but not as much effort. So I'm going to pick out is fingernails and toenails with some Rakarth Flesh. And then just give that a wash with Jesus, I need to slow down. I'm tripping over my words. Agrax Grey. That's not even right. It's Agrax Earthshade. There we go. And I also put that onto the hands a bit and a little bit up the limbs and on his teeth. Make his teeth a bit dirty smile. This is just a kind of another attempt to blend the wings together, or the limbs, the transitions on the limbs. Now I'm gonna take Corn Red and color the eyes, and then some Evil Sun Scarlet. However, I do make a little bit of a mistake with the Evil Sun Scarlet. I wasn't careful enough, and then I just got some water on my brush to try and clean it up, and realized, you know what, actually, let's commit to this and make his eyes a little bit more prominent. So I thinned down Evil Sun Scarlet and just painted around the eyes with that to give it a little bit of a spooky woodland creature glow. So that was just a happy little accident, I guess, as the fella Bob Ross would say. And then for a final highlight on the eyes, I just give the eyeballs a little dot of rat skin flesh. And the eyes are done. Now Rakarth Flesh, I use this to just give a wee highlight on the toenails and the fingernails. And now Ungor Flesh. Ah yes, don't mind this. I do go and add a highlight to the limb parts that are closer in colour in their transition to the wing membrane colours. But I really don't like how this looks. I think it was too stark a jump, or just not even too stark a jump, but just the wrong colour for this. And I also highlighted the wings, or the ears, with that too, but I didn't like it. So I'm taking some Druchii Violet and I'm going over those areas with that. So all the arms, the hands as well, if you can call them hands. Somebody who studies bats will know better. Ask them. And then here's some Pallid Witch Flesh, just for a final highlight on his lovely teeth and his wee nose. I also give a dot highlight on his claws, his toenails and fingernails, claws, whatever you want to call them. I Are they talons? Is it a talon on a bat? And then you want to give yourself a lovely black rim job, and it's done. Let that dry, and then put on some of this AK Terrain Snow acrylic, and while it's still wet, just plonk the base into a tub of AK Snow micro balloons, and for some of the parts that are a bit high up that can't be reached from that, just give it a wee sprinkle. And now it's time for the beauty shots, because that's them done, believe it or not, and that was pretty damn quick, I must say. And now they're ready to game, and I'm really happy about that. From about 2 feet away, next to the Vampire Lord and the Skeletons, they all kind of look around the same standard, and they look like even though each unit is painted differently, because of the way I've approached it, they still look like a uniform army, and I'm really happy with them. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and it's useful and it helps you get your Fell Bats on the table in time for the new Soulblight Gravelords release and for gaming. And if you're watching it in the future, or if you don't really care about new release of Battle Tomes, I hope it helps you just get them painted and playing. Because that's why we collect these models usually. Well, why we collect armies. Collecting models, that's a different thing. Maybe you just want to paint them. But why we collect armies is to play with them. And because they look cool. So, if you got some value from this, if you like it, and you'd like to support me, you can do so for completely free by hitting the subscribe button, leaving a like the video, maybe drop a comment. Those 3 things are completely free, but they help out in a massive way for anybody making videos. If you'd like to support me further, I now have a Patreon. At the time of recording, I don't have any benefits for patrons yet, but I'm working on it. So if you'd like to do that, I'll put a link in the description. Look after yourselves, be good to each other, have fun painting, and I'll see you again real soon. And thank you very much if you've watched the entire video. Go you, good job. Thanks, we did it. Grr.